The end of presidential Reconstruction. How did Lincoln's assassination change the course of Reconstruction? Assassination means killing. He was shot. Most people of the South were very unhappy with the changes brought by Reconstruction. They resented being forced to live as legal and political equals with the people they had once regarded as private property. They feared the end of their traditional social structure. They also resented the Northerners, known as carpetbaggers, who moved to the South to enforce Reconstruction. This resentment caused many Southerners to feel less willing to rejoin the Union or to give fair treatment to African Americans. Okay, so the South wasn't happy about the Reconstruction and the things that the political party was trying to do, to make everyone equal. And when it says the people they once regarded as private property, they're talking about the slaves, the African Americans. So they didn't think they should be treated equal. They thought their social structure was going to fall apart. They also didn't like the Northerners who moved into the South. So the Southerners were having a real tough time after the war. Many Southern whites acted out their resentment with violence. African Americans were commonly beaten or murdered for walking on the sidewalk as an equal, or for a social slight such as failing to tip one's hat to a white man. Okay, just goes to show that equality was not quite there yet. A lot of the Southerner whites, they beat up people. They resorted to violence. They beat up the African Americans just for walking down the street. Not nice. Reconstruction under Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was a very different politician and person from Lincoln. A Southerner and a Democrat, Johnson was chosen by Lincoln to balance the ticket in the 1864 election. He was a less skilled communicator and politician than Lincoln, and he was also a former slaveholder. Johnson's goal was to bring the Democratic Party back into power. Okay, so we're talking about Democrats and Republicans. So Andrew Johnson was a Democrat. He was a slaveholder, a Southern slaveholder, and he just had different views than Lincoln did. Many former Confederates assumed political office as soon as Johnson had readmitted their states back into the Union. Southern legislators then enacted black codes. These were laws that made African Americans second-class citizens. Black codes included laws that denied African Americans the right to vote. Many states prohibited intermarrying among African Americans and whites and denied African Americans the right to serve on juries. Others required segregation in public places and imposed more severe punishments for African American criminals than white ones. Okay, so with Lincoln, Lincoln was trying to create equality. When Johnson took over, Southern legislators came into office and they enacted black codes. Okay, so these black codes were not good for black citizens. Okay, they actually denied African Americans lots of things, the right to vote. They had more severe punishments than white people. They weren't allowed to serve on juries. A jury is when you go to court and listen to a trial. There were also some states decided to not allow black and whites to get married, interracial marriage. Most Southern states also passed laws preventing African Americans from owning land. Vagrancy laws in Mississippi and South Carolina authorized police officers to arrest unemployed African American men and then force them to work off their jail sentences by laboring for a planter. Other codes required African Americans to have special licenses for most occupations. Okay, so nothing is fair here. So in Southern states, they were passing laws again about African Americans. They weren't allowed to own land. Cops would arrest the African Americans, and then to pay off their jail sentence, they would have to work in farms. Okay, so that's kind of like slavery. While Southern states passed and enforced the black codes, President Johnson questioned the need for the Freedmen's Bureau. Johnson thought that the Bureau created a protected class of people and unnecessarily extended the power of the federal government. In December 1865, Congress rejected Johnson's plan to close the Freedmen's Bureau, which remained in place until 1870. Meanwhile, Northern citizens were unhappy with the speed with which the rich and powerful among the Confederate Southerners were allowed to return to positions of leadership. Passage of the Black Codes added fuel to their anger. Okay, so the Southerners came back into office. They're excited. They're passing these laws. But the Northerners, they weren't so excited about that. Okay, they weren't really excited about the black codes. Um, they were fighting for more equality, and they regressed